What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nathan, and on this planet we send it. And what we're going to be getting in today, well, we're going to be getting into another Jeep video. But unlike any Jeep video that you've seen before, so I'm going to go ahead and click off the video here and just let you guys get a preview of everything. You know, I have to say this is going to be a different video because my previous videos have been something like more of the sport side of Jeeping, some of the rock crawling it, but I'm a pretty new guy to Jeeper. You know, I got my LJ, I've been trying to test it over the last year or so, and this is more of a sightseeing sort of safari trip. And I also got to admit, you know, Bill, if you're watching this, thank you, because I absolutely saw some ridiculously beautiful areas. I think I used the term ridiculously beautiful one too many times in this video, but all of this was because of you, and I really, truly feel grateful that you got to share this with us. And for those who weren't there, Bill took us around to all these hidden gems that he's been actually attending since the 1970s. So, and I'm bringing these to you guys. So I feel pretty lucky to be able to experience this. And I also feel lucky to be able to share this along with you guys. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be more of a sightseeing, sort of safari style Jeep video. And explicitly, we're going to be seeing anything from 760,000-year-old volcanic explosions and what that's turned in today. We're going to be going to some natural hot springs just coming out of the ground and able to go ahead and hop in. And then also we're going to go ahead and end up in a beautiful forest area to where every single location Bill was taking us to should have been something on National Geographic, because we're going from all these water features that either had fish in that you could go ahead and fish from, or there were hot water areas that either, to be honest, some of them you could actually go to, some of you couldn't. And I'll highlight that as we go along with the video. But the plan for this video is really just kind of show you guys, whether you're single or married or something, but to give you guys some ideas that if you're just trying to get away and you want to get to something scenic, low cost, with the exception of gas, that you want to just kind of get away and just relax, this is absolutely the place for you. All right, I got a plan in place. Let's go ahead and send it. Just as I was getting a little bit north of Bishop on the 395, I really started getting exciting because I was seeing this natural beauty leaving the desert and entering the snow-capped mountain region. So I decided to pull over at this vista and do a couple of drone shots just to kind of provide a perspective on just how beautiful the Sierra Nevadas were. And to be honest, I had no idea what I was in store for. Before I even got to the campsite, this is just outside the McGee campgrounds, I was already starting to record. It was just so beautiful. And here's a drone shot of me just kind of surveying the actual campground. And you'll see it's not too big. And you kind of got this, you know, area where you're just snuck right up into these snow-capped mountains. It was just ridiculously beautiful, to include this creek that went right by my campsite. So I had the sound of running water putting me to sleep on the first night. We'll talk about the next night, to where it's getting a little too windy a little bit later in the video, but it was ridiculously gorgeous. Recommend hitting pause if you're interested in going to the McGee campground. This is at recreation.gov. And here's some additional information that they had at the very front when you enter the campground. I highly recommend you take a look at the rules and conditions on the website, though, before making your reservation, just because they do have some unique rules. So after getting camp set up, I decided to go ahead and cook some dinner before joining the others for some evening discussions. And you can just see I went ahead. This is the first time I actually was camping for 20 years or so, doing some tent camping. So I decided to go ahead and treat myself with some steak. And actually, after everyone else had their dinner, we all kind of met up, and we were at Bill's campsite because he had this protection from the wind. And the wind was actually pretty intense when we first got there, but died down over the evening. And I was fortunate the wind started to die down because I'm kind of a light sleeper. So since the wind did start to die down, I was able to just hear the running water in the creek put me right to sleep. Here I am the next morning having some coffee for breakfast, as I typically do, and we had our drivers meeting at about 9 o'clock, and at 9:30 we were on the road, so that was plenty of time for everyone to go ahead and grab whatever breakfast they wanted before we actually got started. Speaking of getting started, it's about time to cue the music, and we'll go ahead and come back when we get to the Lake Crowley columns that were created by a pyroclastic flow from an volcanic explosion 780,000 years ago. Anyone know how these were created? I'm gonna have to look this up. So after doing some research, I found out that these were created, initially what happened was a huge volcanic explosion, 2,000 times the size of Mount St. Helens, about 760,000 years ago, which created this 10 by 2 mile caldera. And after this caldera was created, literally destroyed the volcano it came from, water came in decades afterwards, and it would find the cooling rock, and where the water would sort of seep into the rock, it would steam up, so these minerals would create a natural concrete in the form of the columns that we see right now. And I will say, depending on the time of the year that you come, you may not be able to get to where I'm currently standing because the water levels will prevent you from getting there. warm, is it?
Yeah.
Not hot, just nice and warm?
Warm.
Nice.
It smells like crap.
And when we arrived here at the Willie's Hot Springs, you can kind of see where the spring was coming out of the land here. And I was trying to keep the camera zoomed in. Although it was public lands, there was some children there, and I was trying to avoid recording them. And since the water felt absolutely great, I had to go ahead and give it a go and hop in and see how it felt for myself. Also, I couldn't smell the sulfur in the water. Others could, but I couldn't. And since it was feeling so great, as you'll see here in the next clip, I decided to go ahead and get in a little bit more and give myself a little bit of a baptism in the sulfur water. So as you saw on the drive up from the Willie's Hot Springs up to our little lunch spot here, we hit many locations to where those hot springs were just all over. Many of them you could access and many of them you couldn't because they were marked off due to natural preserve. Also, when we got into the forest, some of those little dirt spots or dust spots, the dirt was so powdery that as soon as the Jeep in front of me went through, I couldn't even see the front of my own Jeep. So definitely had to increase my distance. And then we got to the lunch spot. Although it was a little bit windy, I decided I kind of wanted to get my drone out and give you guys a good view of just some of the scenery we were looking at as we were going through the forest. It was just absolutely beautiful. So I'm actually going to use the Relieve app here to go ahead and highlight some of these last locations that were just absolutely ridiculously gorgeous. We hit this one location that was overlooking a river that ran off into, or more like a stream that ran off into Crowley Lake. We were just going through all these trees and all these water features. It was just absolutely beautiful. And then when we left that location, as you can see here in the app, we were going over to some of these dry lake beds, and it was just super dusty on the way over there, so I couldn't use my primary forward facing camera. Now you can see I'm sort of backtracking because Bill had to take me to that previous location because my secondary GoPro fell out of my pocket when I went to use the restroom over there. So here we are. Everyone else went straight. Bill and I are now on the freeway trying to get around to everyone else. And so we took the fast route until we got over here that was Mono Lake here in that picture. And then we continued on until we got to Mono Mills. Yeah, Mono Mills is a landmark area, highlighting where they used to have a previous wood mill in this area. And it was, again, just another beautiful location. And of course, wherever the LJ is, rainbows just randomly pop out. After that location, we headed into Mammoth Village Park to go ahead and gas up and get supplies for the next day. And what I want to kind of highlight after we went into Mammoth is that I actually ended up going to this place called Tom's place, and I went to this cafe here that it's about to pop up here in just a little bit. It was about 8 miles past our camp, and it was ridiculously great food. So if you're in the area, I highly recommend you try this cafe. It's right off the 395, super easy to go to. Even if you're not going to camping here, if you're driving by the area, I recommend you stop. And at the end of a long day, we all ended up over at Bill's tent, who had some of the wind protection, just enjoying the camaraderie, talking about the day of the beautiful visit that we had. And it was thanks to Bill, who will be here at the end of the clip. All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap this video. Now, I hope for those who were not on the trip enjoyed the educational value that I tried to add to make sure, so I sort of brought you guys along on some of these hidden gems that Bill brought us to. And also, to be honest, even for those that did come on the trip, I hope you guys enjoyed the history that I brought along too. Now, I know I talked about, I would mention the wind and everything and talk about that a little bit later in the video. I'm going to hold that off on to day 2 because it was a little bit more significant on day 2, as you guys will see here. But overall, absolutely had a beautiful day. Thank you again, Bill, for taking us on this trip. It was 100% stunning, and I'm extremely fortunate and grateful that you brought us along on that. And I hope everyone else who's watching this YouTube video feels the same. So if you're ever around the 395 area, you definitely got some good reason to get up there by Mammoth, because there's some uncanny natural beauty for you to go ahead and visit, whether an RV, regular video, and especially if you got a Jeep, it's time to go ahead and get up there. But anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you on the next one.